You take a big old swig there, Ed, because we're going to dive into the first topic. It's hot. Naomi Campbell says, if you're thinking of remaining child-free, don't, because you will change your mind. That's what she says. Naomi told The Times that she's worried about the amount of women who say they don't want kids because it's expensive. She says, in the end, it's absolutely worth it. So is it kind of irresponsible, especially coming from a multimillionaire supermodel? Ed, is she out of line, or is this kind of spot on?
Well, I really wanted to be a young dad, I think in part because I wanted to be a young grandfather.
Oh.
So I got started really early. I was anxious to have kids. I think financial concerns are really realistic reasons for pausing before you start a family. That's viable. What I'm worried about is all this doom scrolling convincing people that this is the worst time in the world to bring a baby into the universe. That's wrong.
Yes.
We live in the greatest time that has ever existed for human beings. So, you know, kids are great. It's the greatest thing I ever did in my life. And if you can do it, I recommend it. It's a wonderful thing.
I love what you're saying. And I also love that you had that kind of insight and wisdom early on. Like, do you know where that came from? You were presumably also in the middle of building a huge career at that time.
Yeah, I think it came from not knowing what I was talking about. Definitely. But now I have these three wonderful human beings.
How old are they now?
They're 21, 24, and 28.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have children. I have three adults, and they're amazing people. And, you know, my wife and I just got back from Japan celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And, you know, my kids all flocked back to the house and we had dinner. Like, it's a great thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's really nice, but, you know, I think Naomi's a little out of touch. I have heard this, though, from a lot of older women who didn't have children who feel like they have to talk to me and be like, it's my biggest regret. But on the other side, I've also seen people who have multiple children and their kids are not around and their kids are barely checking on them. They see them once in a blue moon or they might call. So I don't know if necessarily it's the answer, because I think it's always going to be the grass is greener, right? Those who don't have are like, I should have, and those who had are like, well, I could have passed. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I do know she is speaking from a place of privilege, because in order to be a single mom like she is with two small children, she needed to have a surrogate, IVF, sperm donor, childcare, because she's not strapping those kids to her back as she's all over the place walking runways. Somebody is at home taking care of those kids. And also, there's another part of it. You just mentioned it. Like, you wanted to have children. I really think that in my younger years, if I'd met the right person who wanted to have kids, I probably would have. But I also knew that I wasn't willing to make this lifelong commitment with somebody if I didn't feel 100%. And unfortunately, most of the guys that I was meeting in those baby-making years just weren't cutting it.
Fair point.
Not you, sir, not you. Sorry, you're just gonna date and move on.
You can only make the right decision for you, right? Yeah. And what Naomi thinks is not necessarily what's right for everybody. I will say it was great for me, and I'm glad I did it young. But again, I'm speaking from a privileged position. You know, I was lucky my wife was able to stay at home with the kids while I was traveling
there's that part.
all over the world.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, I wish I had that kind of insight at your age. It sounds like there are some people you meet who are like, I always knew I wanted to be a parent, I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to be that. I did not have that feeling. And so this is like you might be struggling at some point in time going like, do I? Will I be good? You have all these questions. And unfortunately, no one, at least not in my life, ever sat me down and was like, why don't you take some time, sit in a quiet room repeatedly and ask yourself, what do you want? What are your value system? What do you want your life to look like 10, 20, 30 years from now? Because you need to get very quiet and cut out the noise and get to the truth of that if you want to answer it for yourself. Instead, what we get is this mixed bag of stuff. You get, first of all, don't get pregnant while you're a teenager, all the fear-mongering around that. Then you get like, oh my God, having a kid, all the horror stories of labor and what a pain it is. And then the people at a certain point in time, and some people said this to me, which is, your life is not worth living if you don't have children.
A lot of people think that way.
So you get this mixed bag of like, don't do it, don't do it. Here's a reason not to do it. And if you don't do it, you're an idiot, right? Like you get this whole thing. So no wonder people are very confused. So I think the only advice would be to get quiet with yourself and really ask yourself, what do you want as an individual?
Sure, I mean, the last word, It's all you can do. It's all you can. The last word I'll say on this is that I think she's trying to come from a good place, a privileged place. I think she's coming from a good place because she had these children later in her life, and she's like, this is amazing. Good for you, and I'm happy for her. But I also think where I think we do have to get real, the village, the proverbial village, it's disappeared.
Yes.
And I think that we have lost something. And the village, part of the village is taking the burden off an individual woman to do all the child rearing by herself. The village is falling apart. And I think that's why you have especially women saying, I'm tapping out. And I get that.
Yeah.
I think if the village was back and we had partners and grandparents and all of the things.
Neighbors, like
neighbors, if
everybody
everybody
pitching
was
in.
pulling together, I think we'd be having a different discussion.
I think you're right. Absolutely.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.